The Monday, August the 1st, 2022 meeting of the Montpelier Design Review Committee. We'll let committee members and staff introduce themselves.
Martha Smirsky, member.
Benjamin Cheney, member.
Meredith Crandall, staff.
Stephen Everett, member.
Eric Gilbertson, member.
At this point, we will let Meredith review the remote meeting procedures and process.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here and put up a little presentation that's more for people who are watching via ORCA, but there's going to be some pointers that I give about how we are going to work this that is helpful for everybody who's on remotely. All right, so for those viewing this meeting via ORCA Media, you can participate in tonight's Design Review Committee meeting via the Zoom platform, through either the video or telephone access options. So for video and using the Zoom platform, there's this link here. You can also dial in this phone number and plug in this meeting ID when it's requested. Oh, and there we go. Sorry, somebody's asking to be let in. If you have problems accessing the meeting, please email me at mcrandall@montpelier-vt.org. I will be monitoring my email throughout tonight's meeting. And you also have this option here to get all of the meeting information. For those attending via Zoom, turning on your video is optional. And if you're having issues with the sound, sometimes turning off your video will let the sound come through clearer. It just reduces your bandwidth usage. For everyone attending, please keep your microphone on mute when you're not speaking. This will reduce background noise. If you're on via the Zoom telephone option, you can press *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Please reserve the Zoom chat function just for troubleshooting or logistics questions. Any questions or comments on an actual application should be verbal. You can raise your hand either physically or by using the raise hand button on your Zoom toolbar. And then if you're on the phone and calling in for comments, then during a break, you can state your name and say you have a comment. Although so far, everybody we have on tonight is applicants. So we'll know what you're talking about. Okay, I'm just going to just quick scroll through. Yeah, we just have applicants on right now. So in the event that I find out that there are members of the public unable to access this meeting, it will need to be continued to a time and place certain. And that's all I've got. So I'm going to hand the meeting back over to the chair, Steve.
Thank you.
And hold on one second. I'm just going to double check.
Oh, okay.
Lauren, is that you dialing in from the 793-6619?
I've been on the line for a couple minutes now.
Yep. Nope. Just double checking because I didn't have your phone number in front of me. I thought I remembered it. All right. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah.
We're going to let Steve.
Oh, thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
Oh, it's okay. We're going to let Steve open it up and then you'll be up.
At this point, if many members have had a chance to look at the agenda, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Says Eric.
I'll second.
All in favor of the agenda, speak your names.
Martha.
Ben.
Eric.
And Steve. So we'll move forward to the first application for 44 to 50 Main Street. Applicant Lauren Andrews for 3 new signs. Lauren, go ahead and describe your application for us.
Hi. Thanks for everybody. I'm calling from Portland, Maine right now, having a little vacation. I put in an application because I'm going to be opening up Capital Cannabis Company in the former Bailey Road space. And I'm going to be moving Aromed Essentials from my 8th State Street location to the former Zenith space, which is right next door to the Capital Cannabis spot. And we're planning on painting the exterior of the space and putting up new signs for Capital Cannabis and moving the current sign from 8th State Street for Aromed to the new space at 50 Main. Did you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Everybody's looking at giving another look at the printed packets that they have. We don't have any of our DRC members remote tonight. Everybody's here or DRC, sorry, design review members in
okay.
Remote. They're all in person, so they're all looking at their
Oh, nice.
packets, and doing a double check while you were describing the project. So they're all just reviewing it right now. They're not ignoring you.
Okay. Okay.
I'm looking at the proposed picture where you have it's painted, and all the way over in the right, I see that it's painted all the way to the floor or to the sidewalk. Is that brick now, or is that wood?
That's wood.
Okay. I can't tell from.
We're not painting any brick.
Okay, good. Thank you. That was my concern.
Yeah, no, I like brick. We keep as much of that as we can.
Hi, Lauren. I'm curious about the placement of your signs, specifically the AeroMed sign. Is that, I'm looking again at the same image and wondering if that's the intentional placement centered over the window.
Yes, because we looked at it centered over the door and thought that would be, I like the aesthetic of it better, but I think it'd be terribly confusing because it's a door for both businesses.
Yep.
And I don't want people who want to go into the cannabis shop to look up, see Aromed Essential sign and be confused. So we ditched that idea.
Ben, when you look at the door, that bay window to the left of the door is a foyer.
Yep.
And then once you
Yeah.
go to the foyer, the door is in that divider to the three windows to the left, which would be Capital Cannabis.
Correct.
And then do you intend to move any of the lighting, or are you going to leave the
No,
lights
I have
where
no-
they are and have them be
I'll leave the
offset?
lights as they are. Yeah,
Yep.
I'll leave the lights alone.
You could actually angle, leaving the lights where they are, you could angle the shade over to light up both the AeroMed sign and the Capital Cannabis sign by moving
Yeah,
heads of the goosenecks.
Yeah, agreed. That we kind of scoped that out. I had an electrician take a peek up there, and that's why we determined that there was no need to move them when you can angle them just as much more easily.
And quick question, it looks like the AeroMed Essential sign fits in. You have an outline drawn, which looks like an outline for the sign band on the drawing. And the AeroMed sign fits within that, and then the Capital Cannabis sign looks larger than the space in that outlined space.
It's a little bit larger just because of the shape of the logo. The Capital Cannabis logo, I wish I had it in front of me. I don't have that. But I think it's a little bit wider than the arrow. I'm not sure, but it's what determines the size of the sign is the shape of the logo.
Is that a thin yellow or green line outlining, sort of detailing the sign band?
Correct. I haven't quite landed on the color. I want something to contrast the dark teal. But I don't want it to be I'd want it to be just an accent color, nothing that's going to overwhelm it.
Mhm.
We're trying to make it look a little more urban, the exterior with a little more sophistication. So I think that's why we're keeping the paint color rather dark. And like I said, the band color, I'm not sure. We kind of put I have several brand colors. One of them is a highlight color of almost like a little lime green that really kind of pops against the dark teal. And we thought that would be, we played around with different band colors, and that one seemed to complement the dark teal the most without overwhelming it at all.
Right. Now, if I look at the existing signs, Bailey Road and Zenith, it looks like the sign band below the lights is recessed there. Is that the case?
Yeah. If I'm
Okay.
understanding you, yeah.
Steve,
So
so I just want, can I interrupt for a second? Because
Yes.
I know where you're going, but I think that visual might be a mistake. Because when I look at the actual sign application form,
Mhm.
it says that the AeroMed wall sign is 36 inches high and the Capital Cannabis wall sign is 34 inches high.
Oh, okay.
So I think that the visual is an error maybe, and that the capital cannabis sign is actually going to be slightly shorter but wider than the
Okay.
Aeromed sign. If the
would
dimensions of
make
the
sense.
chart are correct. And so they should both fit inside that sign band without having to pop out.
Okay, that was my only question because visually on the drawing, the capital cannabis sign is taller than the Aeromed sign and looks like it does not fit within the sign band.
Yeah, I think there's, you got clarification right there. Probably just not to scale on the drawing or something.
Okay, that again,
But the actual dimensions should be there are correct.
okay. Our recommendation would be that both of those signs fit within the existing sign band.
Inside each sign band. Yeah, I think we're planning on putting, what is it, like metal frames behind them,
Okay,
so they don't go right. They'll go against the metal frames. They're not going to go against the wood necessarily, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
I think they'll look nicer too, Lauren, if they're both very close to the same size. And from what
Yeah,
this is telling us, that is true, rather than this representation, which may be a little off.
okay, yeah, because our intention was to keep them similar.
okay. And then you have you have an overhanging capital cannabis sign.
With the blade sign that comes off to the
Blade-
side.
Yes, the blade sign.
Yeah, yes.
And again, we would recommend that be balanced within that sign band area as well. The representation shows it higher than the sign band.
Yeah, I think the guy who did those quote, he just did it from a picture.
Okay,
Our plan is to do put the sign in the same spot that the Bailey Road blade sign was,
okay,
because her blade sign placement was perfect. You could see it from way down the road. It was good. So if it's not broken, don't fix it.
You can sort of see it in the photo of the existing, just barely. There's like a white line that goes down by the middle decorative column. I don't know what you would call that. And so that was the projecting part that came out where it was attached was in the sign band area. So yeah, I think the visual representation might be just a little off on that again. That's all.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
another-
I think when he put that together, it was from a photo.
Yep.
So I'm not surprised.
I hadn't noticed this on the street before, and as I'm looking at these photographs, I'm very interested in what that column is that's separating between Bailey Road and Zenith. Looks to be an old steel column.
Yeah, it's painted. I think it's painted black
Yeah.
right now.
I guess I'm wondering in your paint job whether there's a way to actually call attention to that, because I think it probably is a beautiful thing. And
That's not. I hadn't really thought about that. We thought about maybe repainting it black. If I did end up painting those, I probably wouldn't go the lime green route, because I think that I like the color, but I don't like it that much, kind of thing.
yeah, no, I would not
I would
press that.
I would, yeah. I think that with those columns, that wouldn't be appropriate.
Agreed.
If I did paint the columns, I would do probably a more subdued green that would complement the teal. We've got our brand colors, and there's this really nice green that looks gorgeous with the teal. That's a bit more sophisticated. I think that would, if we did paint the columns, I'd go that direction.
That has a little bit of contrast and possibly a different sheen to give it a little bit of just difference.
I hadn't thought about it, but having the columns be a little shiny would be nice, I think. Good suggestion.
I would like to see that column because I think it's beautiful and I've not noticed it before.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really it's hard finding people to talk color with me. If you ever if you want to come look at color samples with me, come on by.
I'd be happy to do that.
There's also a really rich looking color called black green that looks very, very nice that would fit in with that color scheme for the column. And then again, you would want a contrasting color for the detail for the panels below, as well as for the trim, the pinstripe around the sign band.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I just want to make sure it's not too busy. You know, I think whatever I do, I have to just make sure that's not the case.
The pinstripe.
But yeah, I like the idea about the columns though. I'll rethink that and see if we can give those more attention for sure.
And I guess to that, whether there can be a little bit of separation for the Capital Cannabis Blade sign, maybe that can, the way it's depicted here sounds like maybe not the way you're actually going to do it. And in real life, it's jammed up right close to it and the Bailey Road sign, but there seems to be a fair amount of space on the Zenith Aeromed side, whether that Capital Cannabis sign could slide over there a little bit.
That'd be fine. To be honest, we were just doing it because I figured it'd be easier because it's sort of already, I don't know if it's grandfathered is the right term, but I mean, there was a sign hanging there for, I don't know, how long was she there? 8-9 years. And I thought, well, we'll just do it in the same spot because it was okay for Bailey Road. But if there's another spot that you would prefer to have me hang the blade sign, I don't care where I sign it. Just hang it.
I mean, I think if it
It doesn't
were
really matter to me.
a foot or two right or left of that column, I think that would be great.
Okay.
And it seems
take a look
like
at
you
it. We'll take a
probably
look at
have
it.
space for that because you're being conservative in your signs.
Yeah, you're not using the same hardware, correct? You're using different hardware?
No, we're gonna put a new hanging, whatever you call it, a metal piece to hold the sign.
Yeah, because I mean, the current one looks like it's right next to, I just pulled it up on like the Google Street View. The current one is really, really close to that metal column. I'm going to pull it up so that the DRC members can see what I'm looking at on the big screen, maybe, if the visual works. Let me turn off the light real quick. So here's the current hardware right here, and here's that column. It's right there. The current hardware is right at that column, right next to it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And you think it should be farther away so it doesn't draw attention away from the column?
I do, yeah. And full disclosure, Lauren, I'm actually been in your space talking to Michael DeGeorge about railings in there.
Oh, yeah.
And so it would also be possible to create something that held your sign inside that sign band that was similar to those railings, if that felt.
Oh, yeah, we should talk. Let's talk.
All right.
Have you considered painting the panels, sign band and the panels at the bottom a slightly lighter color? Then
Again, we did some potential drawings with the sign guy of putting colors in different spots. And I just think it looks too busy to have. I like the idea of having it one color with just the highlighted colors that, around the inside of I hope I'm using the right terms, but the bands or whatever. We experimented a little bit with some of the lower panels being painted that highlight color. And I thought it looked kind of cheesy. I didn't like the way it looked.
Oh, and Eric, you'd want the darker color of the sign band with those light signs over it, right? So you were thinking
either so there's a difference between the general color of the front and the sign band and the panels.
Yeah.
Probably a lighter color would probably be, darker color would be fine. Just to sort of define the panels a little more and the sign band a little more definitely.
Yeah. Define the panels on the bottom and the sign band, in addition to having the pinstripe.
Yeah, inside the pinstripes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think about it. Again, I'd have to, there are concerns about it being too busy looking.
Well,
I'm going to have a lot going on in the window too, you know?
well, just as an FYI, all the stuff on color is just guidance and thoughtful input from people, because the design review committee, we don't actually have any jurisdiction over color of painting already painted surfaces anymore.
Yeah.
So you're just getting some input and thoughts on the color issues.
I appreciate it. Actually, I think that maybe we'll play around, and I think maybe I didn't like the inside of the those squares being colored in because I was just looking at the wrong color. I'm wondering if we played a little bit more with that idea with more subtle colors, maybe it would look better. I don't know. Now you've got me thinking. So I'm actually going to pay attention to what you have all said and play around a little bit more.
Yes, you can.
The reason I suggest that would be less of a monolith in the front
Yeah.
in terms of color.
You can do some.
Yeah. It would just.
You can do some trial color choices, and whatever you and whoever you're consulting with thinks looks the best in that.
Probably, I'm probably going to be calling Bonnie Everett stat. I've got her on speed dial.
I can't say anything one way or the other about that.
Yeah. You guys know this is all great feedback. I'm actually quite appreciative. I've got so much to think about that sometimes, you know, sometimes you just want to make a decision just to make a decision and cross it off the list. So I'll dive back into this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So unless anybody has anything else to add, the recommendations were that each of the 3 proposed signs be placed within the borders of the existing sign band. And then there was a comment that the steel column, and again, because of colors, this is again at her option. This is at her option that the steel column, the vertical steel column on the facade can be painted a contrasting color to help emphasize the historic character of the building's construction.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
And again, that's an option.
No, I think it's really thoughtful feedback. So I thank you all. So are we set?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Steve has to go through some
There's some
criteria and
Criteria
Okay.
for signs in the design control district. Number 1, the size, location, design, color, texture, lighting, and material of all exterior signs within the design review overlay district shall be compatible with the building and structures of the site and surrounding properties. This is acceptable. Where appropriate, signing shall respect the original sign placement and sign bands on historic structures. Again, this is within the sign band. If a building has multiple tenants, there shall be consistency in placement and size among all signs. Acceptable. It is recommended that sign placement be centered over building entries. In this case, you have 1 entry for 2 businesses, so the placement in the main window or the center window, as the case is acceptable. Sign installation shall minimize damage to character-defining materials on the building. Acceptable. Sign design, color, and typography shall respect historic precedents where appropriate and shall be the appropriate scale for existing and new buildings. Acceptable. Sign support structures shall be compatible with the building architecture and must not be overly complex or dominant in and of themselves. That's acceptable. And based on those criteria, do I hear a vote in favor of the application?
I'll vote yes, Sarah.
This is Martha. I say yes.
Yes.
And Steve says yes. So it's accepted. 4 votes in favor.
Yay.
Lauren. So this is Meredith. Because there's a recommendation on here that says that they all need to be in the sign band. So that's sort of a permit condition. Normally I would have you sign the form before we issued the permit. When are you going to be back in the state and able to sign a form, or can I scan it to you? Are you somewhere where you have access to print it out and then?
No, I'm coming. I'm coming home tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
what would you rather email it to you, or do you just want to come into the office tomorrow and sign it?
I will. Am I going to get into Montpelier? I actually rather you email it.
Okay, perfect. Nope, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll email it to you. I'll scan it to you and email it to you tomorrow, and then you can just sign it and then either send back an image. It doesn't have to be a PDF scan, just so we see your signature on it, so that we can then issue the permit.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Aaron. Good
Have a
luck
good
with the
night.
Project. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The next application is for 15 East State Street. Applicant Dan Cypress, Element Real Estate, the replacement of 5 new signs.
So we have Anna Supple on Zoom. Anna, if you want to unmute yourself and describe the project.
Yeah. Hi, thank you guys so much for having us. So we're doing a pretty straightforward project. Element Real Estate has acquired Heaney Realtors at 15 East State Street. They're still going to be there. No one's going away, but we just need to put in new signs that reflect the new brokerage. And so we are putting all the signs in the same place. They're all going to be the same dimensions. The only change is the overhead sign is currently an oval, and we're just going to be putting in a rectangle, but same dimensions.
Same coloring.
Yep, same coloring. We are removing the green, but we are using the same blue and gold.
Are these new signs the same material as the existing ones?
Yes, they will be.
There isn't a photograph showing what the new ones will look like up. It just goes into place.
Does anyone have any questions? We got the same colors, same dimensions, same placement. The only thing that the logo is changed to add in the element.
Yeah, and really the main reason this is here is because of the shape change on the projecting sign. Because really, if all they were doing was really changing the panel or painting over, that's all content.
Yes.
And we wouldn't even issue a permit for that.
Right.
It really is coming here because of that one, the change in shape, because the locations are the same, everything else kind of fits, and we can't regulate
good.
content. So, unless you had some big issue with the shape of the one different sign,
I'm good with it.
I'm not sure there's much for you guys to do on this one.
I'm assuming the change in shape of the sign was to accommodate the additional lettering and spacing.
Exactly. We tried to do the oval shape just to see, and it looks so awkward. So
Okay.
Is the bracket staying the same?
Yep, we're going to be using the existing bracket. We're trying to make this as simple as possible.
Unless anybody has any questions, comments, or suggestions, we can go down through the criteria for this one. The size, location, design, color, texture, lighting, and material of all exterior signs within the design review district shall be compatible with the building and the structures of the site and surrounding properties. Acceptable. Where appropriate, signing shall respect the original sign placement and sign bands on historic structures. These signs are acceptable. If a building has multiple tenants, there'll be consistency in placement and size among all signs. Acceptable here. It is recommended that sign placement be centered over building entries. These placements here are acceptable. Sign installation shall minimize damage to character defining materials on the building. Acceptable. Sign design, color, and typography shall respect historic precedents where appropriate and shall be the appropriate scale for existing and new buildings. Acceptable. Sign support structure shall be compatible with the building architecture and must not be overly complex or dominant in and of themselves. Where again, acceptable, you're using an existing support for the blade sign. All in favor of the application, speak your names.
Eric says yes.
This is Martha. I say yes.
Ben says yes.
And Steve says yes. So 4-0 in favor.
Anna, because there weren't any recommendations or conditions being placed on this, I don't need you to sign the review form, and we'll just get that permit out as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you and good luck with your project. We can move forward to the next application for 138 Main Street. Welcome back, Sandy.
Unexpected, hopefully not substantial change that happened over the weekend. Share it with everybody.
Thank you.
So there's only 2 companies that we are aware of that sell these silos.
So make sure, you might want to repeat
yeah.
in the microphone.
There are only 2 companies. Maybe I should talk about it on that item. Yeah. This is the first item. So you folks were so kind to give a first glance at the bunch of things we're next asking for 138 Main Street. Then you weren't
I
here
missed
last
last
time.
meeting, yeah.
So I'm going to just go over them again. Also for anyone else who might be listening. But the good news was we kind of began to get familiar with it last time. What changed a couple of flip-flops around last week is that we learned that this is to make energy efficient changes to the building at 138 Main Street. I told people last week that during the energy audit, the person said this was by far the worst building he's ever audited, like a lot times worse than the worst building he ever audited. So currently it's using, I can't remember the number, but more than 6,000 gallons of oil a year to heat the building. So last week I came in with an airlock, which was approved. And this week we're kind of doing this as quickly as we can to try to make the changes this fall. So I only introduced the other changes because they hadn't been submitted in time, and now they're here. So there are 2 related changes and then 3 other things. So the first one is we now need to make changes to the boiler shed. And then the second is a pellet silo. Both of those are to heat the building with wood pellets. And the next item is condensers. We also need to insulate the ceiling of the front porch because there's a heated space above it. And then the flood vents are insulated. So the first item is unexpected. The good news that came after I last talked to you folks is that we are able to eliminate the oil tank completely. We don't need to keep it as a backup. I was really worried about finding a home for another boiler next to the old boiler because of piping, but we're allowed to replace it. So then the next problem was that the boiler is 12 inches taller than the oil boiler. So we have to actually raise up the roof, and I want to do it 18 inches just because I'd hate to move it 12 and have it not be quite enough. So you'll see the first drawings in my application. There's some background information about the floodplain and the site plan, but then there's some drawings for is everyone following along with the drawings?
On the new-
Yeah, it's better to use, they're both in the original, but these are the new revised ones. So what goes along with this is the pellet silo. So you've got photographs of the existing boiler shed. It makes a lot of sense to keep as much of it intact as possible. So we're just raising up the roof at the boiler shed. At the boiler itself, just raising up. And then at the same time, we realize we need to be able to move out the old boiler and put the new boiler in, and that might happen again in the future. So we would like to make an access panel. And the thought was to kind of hide it. It's almost door shaped, but make it look like shutters or something. It could be just blank. If you have any opinion, we're happy to follow that. But
Is the boiler in that rear addition?
yeah, it was built in, I think, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it's kind of tall is because it has to be above the floodplain plus a bit. So this, in the new handout I gave to you tonight, it's the same. The shed itself is the same as all of the submissions that were given last week, but what's different is the silo. So, yep, right there on the site plan.
Yep, so I pulled this up on the side. So
Thank you.
Here's the silo location generally. The measurements on here are a little off because we have the new silo version. And I'm trying to remember, is the black
That's the boiler shed.
Yeah, the black here is the boiler shed. So this boiler shed is what's going to be lifted up. So this was drawn on the site plan from when they added the boiler shed. So the boiler shed is 140 square feet.
And that currently exists.
That currently exists, right?
The
So
roof is too low.
the roof's too low for the new wood pellet boiler.
The ceiling at its highest point is only 6 feet, 2 inches tall.
And the L roof, that's 19 feet, that's existing, Sandy?
All of it, everything else is existing. The porch, the roof,
Okay.
Yep, all of
the
that.
parking lot, the building, there's the old carriage house is the building right down there that Meredith is pointing to. So my red markings are the new overlay on the 2001 drawing that was approved by this group.
That dark area is the existing shed.
Yeah, so it was the addition in 2001, and so all we're doing now is raising half of the roof up 18 inches,
Half of the roof or
half of the roof.
So that, if you look at the drawing she just gave you, the third drawing. Here's the current roof level, if I understand it, and here's the new roof level, I think, right? So there's the current roof level.
Correct.
Right? And that currently goes all the way across. You're just raising it
Yep.
in the back.
Yep. Over this new access panel
Yep.
that would be insulated.
And is that a new, like, chimney vent thing?
We had to take out the old one to be able to put that access panel in. So
Yep.
yes, it's actually the exact same chimney. It can be reused. It was the correct diameter. It's just being moved over and it's being raised 4 feet because it was too short for safety.
I was looking at the side or the rear view.
Yes,
of that shed.
Yep.
Where you have two different roof levels,
right,
both of them sloping towards the silo.
right.
Would you rather have a single roof, shed roof to the back so that you're not dumping water and ice and snow
The plumber,
between?
the plumber was interested in that idea, but there's a huge amount. The hot water heater is right next to it because it also has to be out of the floodplain. There's a huge amount of piping on that part of the roof. So when we put everything together, this is what the plumber wanted to do.
Oh, okay, so all
Yeah.
that other stuff is attached to the roof.
Yeah, it'd just be a huge mess. All the copper piping would have to be removed and then come up.
And I'm
Wait.
assuming, A, that the silo is going to be left exposed and visible, not boxed in and,
That was the idea, and what I submitted last time was this idea, I discussed last time was putting a lattice end panel on the adjacent porch. And I submitted some street views, and then I submitted a lattice sample
Yeah.
for that. So that, the idea of that would be that it's screened.
Yeah.
We had been told we could get a black silo. If I can go on to that, is it okay? Do you want to stick to the shed, or can I
well,
talk about the silo?
I'm sort of circling back to the shed. I was just,
Okay, yep.
so we'll come back to that. But
So,
and then I guess I'm also curious, and I'm sorry that I missed the last meeting.
Yeah.
I'm certain there's reasons that are dictating the location of the silo versus being able to kind of tuck it into what's labeled the 2-foot mark right there.
there's a door there.
There's a door there
Yeah,
that's preventing that from getting even further around.
And I think they have to have the door there for emergency.
well, it's the,
Access
pretty
and-
much the only access to the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, it's definitely the fastest way to get to the boiler if there were anything wrong with the boiler.
Yep.
So, I wish it could be there.
Yeah.
There's also a window for an apartment right next to it, so it would be blocking the window as well, right where that little hand is.
Yeah.
So I wish it could fit there, and the owner wanted to fit there, but I think everybody agreed that, I mean, the stairs are old, like granite bulkhead kind of stairs going down. It would be very hard to remove those or reconfigure them. So, the best plan seems to be to put the silo right there.
Yep. And then you were thinking the black lattice going out this way and then back, or
We
Diagonal
had
or-
just had it on the end wall of that porch.
like coming, just
from
coming
there-
out this way?
Well, just towards the wall of the building. So in other words, only the width of the porch. And then it would be. you
Oh,
could-
to block the view like
just-
through the porch?
Well, because that's where, if you look at the sequence of photographs walking down the street,
Oh, yep.
you can't really, because of the tree, you can't really see it. And so we thought we were going to get a black silo because that's what they said in Ireland that they make. And it turns out they only have green silos. So, but it can be painted. And so the assumption is that you would like the silo to be black with a black lattice to further hide it, but it could be green if you prefer.
Is that the actual color, that dark green?
Yes, that's exactly it.
I would be happy just leaving it the dark green.
What you can do is you can take the lattice and actually, before you put it up, just spray it or paint it I would suggest the black green. It's a color, and again, that's your choice.
Make the lattice
But they
green.
make a black green color that's looks really, really nice. That's the color of the lattice that I'm building on Baldwin Street.
That would be,
And it
yep,
would be compatible with that green color there, and yet it would function to hide it as well as, I mean, you can attach your lattice so that it's removable to access anything beneath that you need to. Is there a feed tube that goes from the bottom of the silo into the boiler?
That's a really good question. I think that,
How do you
yes.
get the pellets to the boiler?
Well, the major issue is that the pedestal has to be 5 feet 3 inches off the ground. And so because of the flood plain. And you can't, there's so much weight that you can't just extend the legs because the center part also has to be supported. There are 5 points of support. So the idea is to just have it enter the building and it can be vacuum, it's a vacuum suction to get it to the boiler.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think it will probably enter right next to that access panel.
Okay. Will it be protected if there's a vacuum line going from the silo into the boiler room? Is there, I'm assuming there's a sizable tube for the pellets to move
It's only
through.
2 inches.
Only 2 inches?
Yeah, and so it's going to be over most people's heads because the
No,
base is-
again, I'm just looking, do you need any protection for that? Not that it's a big issue, over that tube to protect it from snow, ice coming off the shed roof, which pitches in that direction.
It's a good question. I don't know. I'll have to ask the plumber. I
Okay.
can always come back here with anything that needs to be
Well, that's
further.
pretty inconsequential because it's hidden. It's just
Yeah.
a utility access, basically.
So looking,
I would put that as an alternate so they don't have to come back, and what they do there is.
thank you.
Yeah. You don't need to come back for the protection for the tube.
We're also, because of the labor shortage, trying to keep the roof changes as simple as possible. We could go the other way, but there's so little surface area on that roof. It's not a lot of
Okay.
dump below. So my hope would be that we could just do it like this and then cover it. But if the design review committee strongly would like it to be sloping in the other direction.
That's more of a function of safety and functioning of the silo and boiler room.
Okay. Yeah. I can't think of any other, so the rest of the drawings that I'm handing in tonight, which you haven't obviously had a chance to look at. So this is the picture of the silo, the cut sheet.
Mhm.
And the reason why it's bigger than what I discussed last time is they no longer have any more of these 8-ton size in the United States or 5 ton. So there's no 5 tons. The only other choice would be a 3-ton. And it's a very negative thing to have too small of a bin
Yes.
because you get way too much dust and it shortens the life of the boiler. So it's kind of all or nothing here. So it's
Is it a larger footprint or just taller?
so in your packet, there are 2 examples, the low and wide and the tall and narrow.
Mhm.
It's actually between them, both in width and in height.
Okay.
It's a little closer to the height of the other one, which is how it's getting more volume. But those were the 2 footprint options that I had closed in the
If you
packet.
look up on the screen, there's the 2 footprint options from the one that was in the packet that was submitted. Where there's the proposed silo square showing up against the existing shed building, and it has a dotted line for the skinnier, taller silo, and then a solid line for the wider, shorter silo. And then what Sandy just handed us is how it looks, so that it's gonna peek out. Looks like it's gonna peek out a little further from the shed side than the skinny tall silo, but not as far as the short fat is what I'm seeing.
It's like the Goldilocks version.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
That's a great description.
Yeah, 'cause the skinny tall one was going to be really tall. It seemed to me, especially once you added it to get it out of the floodplain.
the only other option for outside silos in the United States right now is an galvanized aluminum silo that's round And because it's round, it's much, much taller. It was going to be, the silo itself was going to be over 20 feet plus the 5 feet. It would have been 26 feet. And it's starting to look like, you know, the old grain silos at the end of Main Street. So we're really hoping this one will work because there's only 2 more of these in the United States. And Vince is thinking he'll buy both of them, one for his house and one for here.
How many windows are you going to have to put the flood control up?
Oh, okay. Should go on to the next item.
Sure.
The condensers, we added to that the lattice around them after the last discussion. And there would be 2 condensers, one on the roof of the building and one on the side. And that, again, it's limited by the flood elevation about where it can be. I'm not sure what else we could do. We're trying to get that to be a darker color, not white against the brick. The porch roof, because Ben wasn't here last time, there, as far as we can tell, is 0 insulation in that porch ceiling, which is the floor of a heated space above. So the idea, the ceiling is almost 11 feet high. The idea is to take it out, stuff it completely full with no void, some kind of foam product, and then put the, just because of the R7, and then if we can reuse the boards, bead boards, we will, but probably have to replace them, paint them the same color, and put the trim back around the end, as long as that can be salvaged. Then the last item is the flood vents. And this building actually does not have to have flood vents, but the engineer highly recommends it because in 92, the water did get almost to the first floor, and it's a tremendous amount of pressure on the wall. So the other aspect of these is that the basement windows, quite a few are cracked, and they really, some don't have any storm window, and so they're a big hole for lack of insulation. So these flood vents that we can buy are insulated, and we would remove all these windows and we would put in a stud wall and insulate that and put continuous foam on the inside of that. So trying to insulate everything as well as possible. And then also at the same time, follow the engineer's advice about putting in the vents.
The flood vent opens up with
Yeah.
pressure from water pressure,
Yes,
and the vent is within the window opening or
it will be
inside it?
entirely. The window opens are typically 18 inches high by 32 inches wide.
Right.
And these are 8 by 16. But the engineer didn't want us to put more than one in per window because they want them spread around the building.
Yes.
So yes, they entirely would fit in, I'm thinking, in one corner, and then the rest would be just all painted black. And we could get black vents. I think they're on that cut sheet. So the idea is to try to make it look as much like the old window as possible of just being black. And then I think it was Eric had the good idea of putting some trim around the perimeter to make it look a little bit more like a window, and it's completely fine. We would probably use marine plywood and then just use like epoxy paint.
Okay. One quick question, just out of curiosity. If those vents can be opened by the pressure of water, what's to keep somebody from taking their foot and pushing it in and climbing into the base?
They'd have to be 8 by 16 inches large.
That's pretty small.
Yeah. I think that's why they don't have anything larger, because I wanted a larger vent, but I couldn't find any.
Yeah.
I never thought about that till now, but that makes sense. Also, we were quite intrigued by Steve's description of what he had done of actually being able to eject water out. And we looked at that, but we can't figure out, because we're not adjacent to the river, or couldn't figure that one out. So Also, if you keep the water out when there's a big amount of hydrostatic pressure on the outside, it's actually more pressure on the walls. And Vince is hoping not to do the reinforced interior wall, which I personally thought was a good idea. But, it's trying to, everybody makes different decisions. So the idea, and everything's been cleared out of the basement already anyways. So the idea of letting it be a fill area is okay with him. And then he said, then he will use your pump to empty it out as soon as the flood is done.
But they're very handy when you've got water in there and it stops coming in. And basically, if you can, just flip a switch and just watch the water go out.
Well, we just coil a hose, like a fire hose kind of thing, right at the basement door, then I guess. Keep it stored there so that it could spit out when the flood goes down.
Well, basically what you can do is where you put your pumps in a sump in the basement or just on the floor level in the basement. You come off the top of that we came out with several pumps, each one of them has a 2-inch inside diameter pipe, PVC pipe that goes up and feeds into a 4-inch. So we can get like 3 2-inches into a 4, and then that 4-inch just goes through a vent opening in the building.
Okay.
Saves a lot of cleanup, even after the fact.
Yeah, well, I just know from other floods, studying other floods, that the primary thing is to get the water out before mold has a chance to grow. So
72
even
hours.
if it's 3 or 4 days, because it grows on the wood and you have to bleach and it's a mess. So getting it out immediately after the water recedes would be
And
key.
turning on barn fans.
Yep. Yep. Although you can't store them in the basement. So, but assuming that you could magically have those, but at least getting the water out would be key,
Yes.
because it's also not drinking water.
No.
So we have been working very hard. We are now working with fire safety. I would say that I'm certain there'll be another visit to you folks, and I'm sorry it's coming in pieces, but we're doing our best to get this building off of oil by the fall. And we're also now working, my draftsman actually came home from vacation early to draw this building. They measured it today. We have to have proper drawings to talk to fire safety. And all of the things that Chris pointed out immediately have already been fixed. So we're working as hard as we can, but, and I apologize for coming in pieces, but as we get the information, we're processing it quickly.
Again, one last quick question, just to reiterate. What are the locations of the compressors for the heat pump system?
The compressors, not the condensers.
I'm
The
sorry,
compressors?
the condensers.
I drew on the site plan. Yeah.
So there's the silo, there's the shed that's going to be raised,
Right.
there's the roof condenser, and there is the wall sort of condenser location.
Okay.
It's a little bit confusing, but the roof one is at above a 2-story building on the top of it's a flat roof on top of a 2-story building.
Mhm.
We chose that roof because it's kind of central to the units that it would be serving,
Right.
but also there is a way out that's easy for someone to go and maintain them.
Okay.
And then the one that's on the ground is as low as we could get it. There is a photograph showing a mock-up or just a line drawing. And but we're kind of limited by that 5-foot flood height off the ground. So it would be mounted on the wall with brackets coming back to hold it up.
Yep.
Luckily, there was a stretch of brick right next to the meters. The meters had also been relocated in the months after the flood. All of the electrical has been raised up to out of the floodplain.
So I've pulled up here on the screen where the wall unit condenser is going to go. It's kind of hard to see with the lights on, but if drawn in red, where,
So basically right
yep,
there.
and I just zoomed in so you
Yeah.
can see it's right next to the utility meters.
And I had suggested a bush that was what the scriggly green is, but I think I really like the suggestion the group made of just having a lattice to camouflage it. Right now, it seems the only color that's available is white, but I have seen other brands that have brown and black. So if we can get a darker one, we will, but that's actually the hardest trade to get a quote from right now. So it's the least developed of the ones. But
Well, whatever color you end up with, whether it's a raw wood color or a white color, very easy to spray paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, North Branch Nature Center painted theirs blue. So
Yeah.
I think Vince is happy to do whatever you folks like to keep this moving along. So if you would like it brown,
Well,
or brick color or whatever.
Whatever dark color you choose that makes it blend better into that space. So it's, I mean, a light color, white color, tan color is going to stand out. So any
Yeah.
dark color of lattice that you can surround it with is going to make it disappear.
Well, if it's more or less the same color or at least the same value as the brick, do you still want lattice around it, or will that just make it more, assuming the lattice is going down to the ground, will that make it more obvious? Would it be better just to have this mounted on the wall, like the meter?
That's up. I'm ambivalent. I mean, whatever you can do to make it disappear or make it less conspicuous,
Okay.
whether you paint the,
Yeah, I'm with Steve. I think these things are ugly and I hate them. And whatever can be done to be able to and especially on this building,
whatever screening you use or coloring you use to make it dark so it just sort of goes away.
Yep.
The other thing you could do would be to plant a tall evergreen.
Was the
on
squiggly green.
on the lawn outside of it, so you can
Yeah.
get behind it to service it. But yet, that would, from the street, if you could plant an evergreen that screened it so it disappeared. And again, that's just another way of screening it.
Yep.
Without messing with the unit itself.
Yep. I mean, totally.
Which is where you add bush.
The green
Right.
bushy thing, yeah. One thing I've noticed, I walked up and down the street many times to try to figure out what I would say in presentation, and I really like the wide lawn between 138,
Mhm.
and I'm guessing it's 140. The old Cameron,
Patterson Walk building.
yes. And it's one of the few places where you get a sense of the scale of the 19th century yards
Mhm.
going to the river. And so I wouldn't want to fill it up too much because I think that's kind of it's a one of those quiet, lush moments that we get in Montpelier of not being totally urban. And so many of these side yards are now filled up with parking lots that it's rare.
Yeah, I
So
agree with that.
if anything we do, it probably should be tight to the building so it doesn't interrupt that space between the buildings.
I do think that the manufacturers will tell you that putting lattice right up against them, they don't like that.
Well, they don't want to impede the airflow through.
Right,
It's really
right.
key.
That, and you also, with the meters there, people have to be able to get to those meters and all of that. So maybe a
Because of the
short evergreen.
A shrubbery.
Makes more sense. A shortish evergreen makes more sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I want it to be something that doesn't have an invasive root system.
And again, it could be placed because of the angle from the street. It could be placed forward
Yep.
of those units towards is that a bay or is that go around?
It is a bay, and that's kind of one of the issues there.
So when you could place it behind this window at the edge of the bay before it turns.
Yeah.
and have something tall, a little taller that would reach maybe the top of the condenser unit, but still be narrow enough so that it's not impeding the view out of the windows, but still would screen it from the.
It should probably be something like a cedar that could be chopped at the top.
Mhm.
Because I remember when I was working with the Unitarian Church, there are these Scotch pines that take forever to grow, but they do grow. And after a while, they damage the brick. Okay. So I'm hearing that painting it would be good, just in case there's some space through so that it fades away. But it would be preferable to have some kind of natural screen there and probably ditch the idea of the lattice. Okay.
I think that's true. And with appreciation of your comment about the lawn, because I do hear that. And
Okay,
so,
so something tall, it's
Mhm.
just cutting that view off a bit, not large and wide. Because I think what I was envisioning when I drew that large thing was a lilac.
Yeah.
But
No, I don't.
that-
An evergreen that's got leaves on it in
Yep.
January feels, or needles on it in
So,
January.
but folks would be interested in a hemlock, a short hemlock that could just be kept lopped off at the right height.
Either that or get something that's columnar, that's not going to get.
Well, that was the
more than 10
Unitarian
feet-
Church issue.
More than 10 feet high, say. It's going to
Yeah.
limit so you won't have to
We
cut it
couldn't
down.
find one. Okay, I can ask again. Okay. Okay.
And then I guess maybe we spoke about it in the last meeting, but the line sets that are coming out of this thing, where are they going?
The idea we were thinking is that they'll be brown and that they're just going to run as minimally as they can along, lines of the windows or the bay of the window, the bay.
They're going to run level at some point and then go, or are they running horizontal all the way along it, or are they going vertical also?
We haven't had the person on site yet, but we wanted to get this permitted so that as soon as it's available, we can build it. The idea would be that they'll be minimal. Most of them are going to be going to the back roof. So as few as we need.
You mean the one up
Right.
top, as few as
Right.
possible going to this particular
Right.
unit where people can see them.
Right. I'm doing one now that has 5 AC unit heat pump units going to one condenser, and they all collect in the basement and then go out as one pipe. So the line sets are all coming down to almost like, it's like the reverse of a manifold and then going out. But we can't use the basement. So I can't answer that right now. But I do know from getting reassurances from the contractor that they will be pretty small and they can be brown so that they would be minimal on the outside of the building.
And I think of like the gutter here as being black and the window trim all being black.
Would you black be better?
I would think if you could match the window trim in that gutter with those line sets, at least it would have.
Okay.
At least where they run adjacent to the gutter and the window trim. If they have to stretch across bare brick, brown would probably be better, right?
So black line sets were
You can-
vertical.
If you can paint some black or something.
Yeah,
where they're adjacent.
Yeah,
Is that
it's
what
a
you're
covering. So black line sets were vertical and brown were horizontal.
I mean, I'm thinking black everywhere. I feel like the brown, that's what I'm thinking. Just like you see the gutter line there, like that passes over. I feel like that gutter would look weird if it were painted brown, but it doesn't bother me being black. Whereas like,
Okay.
I see Ben's point.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. I appreciate your thinking about it.
Especially if it's mostly on this side of the building that's tucked behind already, you're not gonna, more black light isn't gonna like pop out as you're just walking by.
but something that's sort of like almost kind of the right kind of
Yeah.
brown, but isn't
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
is
Odd.
odd.
A brand new color that isn't on the building.
Right.
Gotcha.
That looks like a cover up.
Do you feel that way about the condenser itself?
I mean, I would also try to paint if you could paint the condenser to be similar to the window trim and just have it like be a black thing on the building.
Okay, not brick color.
That would be my preference. It's such a beautiful building.
It is, and there's something very gracious about the black trim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. There are beautiful gold and dark green. It's actually a 3-color scheme. But obviously you don't do that to a condenser, but it's a really beautiful, very dignified building.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, or suggestions? I did just put down a note that the heat pump condenser unit on the north side wall of the building may be either painted a dark color compatible with the brick color, and again, doesn't have to be a red or an orange color, or be screened using a dark colored lattice or screened by landscaping to help make the condenser less noticeable from the main street view.
Thank you.
And then again, the lattice for the pellet silo can be a dark color compatible with the dark green color of the silo. And again, you're just trying to make the silo disappear as much as you can, given its size and scale.
Be sort of like the elephant in the room.
Anything else we should add, or any other comments, questions, or suggestions?
I think a very good presentation on a
Yes.
complicated project.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Aaron.
Very, very thorough.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for being so
Typical.
open to suggestions too.
Oh,
Yes.
Appreciate that.
And for your sensitivity to an important building.
It's
Quite
one of
a
my
challenge,
favorites in
yes.
town.
I can go through the criteria for the project. Exterior design and materials of new construction or alterations of existing buildings shall be consistent and compatible with the characteristics of the existing building or other properties in the district. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize an historic property shall be avoided. Character defining features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize an historic building shall be preserved. There's no deteriorated character defining features here, and there's no treatment that causes any damage to historic materials, so that's acceptable. Existing buildings shall be recognized as a physical record of their time, place, and use. Any new development shall be differentiated from the old, but shall respect and be compatible with the massing, size, scale, architectural features, detailing, and overall character of the primary historic building and nearby historic properties acceptable. Location and appearance of all utilities, mechanical equipment, trash storage, and fencing shall be sited to minimize adverse visual impact or adequately and appropriately screened from public view. That's acceptable. Alterations to buildings called for by public safety, accessibility, and fire codes shall be designed to maintain the character of the construction materials and features to the maximum event possible, acceptable. Height of building additions shall not overwhelm the primary facade, must consider varied heights of existing buildings and adjacent buildings, acceptable. Proportion, compatibility of relationship between width and height of facades as well as relationship of width to height of windows and doors, acceptable. Rhythm, the visual patterns established by the alterations of solid walls and openings, windows and doors in the facade of a building shall create a rhythm, acceptable. Roof shape and equipment. Consider similarity or compatibility with roof shapes in immediate area. Conceal rooftop equipment and features on flat roofs from eye level view from adjacent public rights of way and from the ground level of any adjacent properties, acceptable. Architectural features, including but not limited to cornices, windows, shutters, fan lights, entablature, trim, and other forms of molding or character-defining detailing prevailing on the existing building shall be considered in the alteration of a building acceptable. Landscaping, screening, and site furnishings. Projects within the design review district and subject to the landscaping requirements in section 3203 shall consider the following: site furnishings, including fencing, seating, other types of site furniture visible from the street or side yards. Does landscaping obscure or undermine key architectural patterns or elements on historic buildings? And mechanical equipment screening. Existing historic and contributing resources such as street trees, fences, gates, walls, steps, gazebos, walkways, front and side yard patterns shall be retained or restored when impacted by the alteration of a building. Walls and fences shall be compatible with the site and the building in scale, traditional materials, and design that reflect the period of the building and or is compatible with the surrounding context. Acceptable.
There's a lot of different parts.
It's all exterior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Windows and doors on historic structures. Character defining windows and door patterns, placement, sizes, proportions, and original features such as trim, sash, and molding shall be preserved to the extent possible. When preservation is not possible, such character defining windows and doors must be rehabilitated or replaced in kind. Windows and doors that are not character defining may be replaced, but such replacements must be compatible with the historic building style, materials, and architectural features. And lastly, porches and stairs on historic structures. The location of porches, ramps, and stairs shall be placed in a manner that does not impact or undermine the original and significant ornamentation or detailing of the existing building. Stairs, ramps, and porches shall employ suitable detailing to connect and be compatible with historic and important design features of existing buildings and new construction. Stairs and ramps shall be designed in a manner with details and materials that provide the most sensitive and compatible structure and that fits the building design and layout.
We didn't actually make any changes to where the stairs and stuff are. Sorry.
And that's okay. I'll just call that not applicable. Based on that, and with the last two suggestions, do I speak your name to vote for the application?
This is Martha. I say yes.
This is Ben. I say yes.
Eric says yes.
And Steve says yes. So 4-0 in favor.
So if you could come up and sign this, and that'll let us move forward
Someone
quicker with the permit. We have about 9 minutes before the other meeting's supposed to start. It would be yeah, you come in and yeah. What? You don't. We have to do the site plan. We'll let you know when you can come and get everything. Yeah, we'll let you know. I'll email you. I'll just put a note here to email you when the rest is ready. It's okay.
Perfect.
So we do have minutes that are here, 2 sets of minutes, but the thing we really need your input on is the city manager's draft proposal about Parklet approval. So the city council is going to be considering revisiting the Parklet ordinance that got tweaked during COVID pandemic to reduce the approvals needed to have a parklet and loosen up what could be in the parklet. They want to move back to the more formal parklets that are structures, not just a fence off area with seating like they have on some of the ones on Langdon Street. And the city manager's proposal actually completely removes design review committee from looking at those more permanent type approvals and structures. And so we're looking for design review committee's input on whether or not they still want to have a role in reviewing parklet permits. So this is the ones that are just seasonal and take over parking spaces, up to 2 parking spaces per parklet.
Couple of things I noticed. One is call these parklets is a little funny because they have nothing to do with parks.
Oh yeah, don't even get into the defined terms and the confusion that causes, because trust me, I've had all sorts of discussions
The
about
other
that.
thing I noticed is that there's all kinds of dates involved in this, but there's no language that says that either the permit or limit the date. Yeah,
Limit the dates of when the parklet can be there.
yes.
Okay.
It may be there, but I read through it a couple of times and couldn't find it.
And
I
Meredith,
think the
have not had a
design
chance to-
review of these things is very important.
I do too. And again, there's the potential if somebody's proposing something before it's actually built, there's a chance for people with experience with them. I mean, your own building experience that I consider it as a valuable resource. And if they want to come through without having to pay a fee or, I mean, whatever they would like to do to expedite it, if they don't want the, the prescribed waiting periods, et cetera, I think it would be helpful to people to have people look at it. And again, based on the experience on this committee, we could maybe make suggestions, maybe save them some money building the thing. Parklets are expensive. Good parklets are very expensive.
Yeah. So
And you want to make sure they last, and you want to make the labor putting them together and taking them apart easy. And then you've got to store the thing off season someplace. So a modular components is the way to do it.
And I want people to take it seriously that what they're building and putting in the streets and making it look nice. And so I think by having the step to come see us is a.
And again, if there's a way we can expedite it so it's quick and clean. I have no objection to that. If you can wait waiting
Change
periods.
the character of that street.
yeah, I mean, it would not be a zoning permit. It would
Right.
still be some other aspect of permit where there isn't the appeal period or anything like that. But DRC still only meets at max twice a month.
I
So-
don't see that if they're doing reasonable planning, that design review
If
is going
somebody
to hold
wants to
up
put
at
one
all.
up, they're not going to put it up before, what's the earliest they can put them up now? End of May?
I think so.
So
Yeah.
if they want to come and see us, March or April, if, contemplating putting something up to boost their business in the summer months, again, if we can make it quick and easy, but again, there's too much experience, which I consider to be a valuable resource.
You're making all the arguments I've been making, so it's nice to hear.
So that's our strong suggestion.
I mean, one of the things that I think is important is that they be removed on time and they not be installed early because they do really change the streetscape.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, and that I'll look back through this to make sure there is a specific window in there, because that's also really, really important for Department of Public Works. Those windows are often bound by, snow issues, cleaning
Yeah.
the streets, all of that. So I'll make sure, I'll double check and review it, because the manager's office is taking, in addition to your comments specifically on design reviews role, planning department is giving a lot of departmental feedback as well.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure to double check
do
that.
you want to vote on this?
I don't need a vote.
Okay.
I needed input from you. We have 3 minutes. Is it awful if I ask you to delay unless somebody
Has
a
anybody
quick
had a
motion?
chance to look at the minutes?
Yes, and I have a change on the
Yeah.
ones from the 20th.
I move approval of both minutes.
Okay. Well,
And now-
actually,
You can throw in the change.
I'm going to put a change in the ones for the June 20th. We only had that one application, 118 Berry Street.
Uh-huh.
And right in the middle of the longer paragraph,
Yep.
it says the building shall have a horizontal window installed to visually replicate the double hung windows. What we said was to have a horizontal mullion.
Ah, thank you. Awesome.
That's
Thank you
all.
very much. Okay, so Eric.
With that change, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for June the 20th?
I so move.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Martha,
And
20th is approved. And how about, do I hear a motion to approve the July the 18th?
So moved.
All in favor?
Martha,
Aye.
I wasn't here.
Okay.
Wait, who seconded that? I did.
Okay.
That was a quick, quiet second.
Everybody's second.
And I'm in favor. So,
So 3-0,
Okay.
4-0, got it.
yes. And do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. And we had